Hi there, Jaki Sabourin here, and today I want to talk to you about the secret to creating intimacy. So I love intimacy because I want to share a genuine connection with the people I share my life with. And in order to do that, it requires a high level of transparency and openness. This is going to involve a degree of vulnerability that can feel uncomfortable for a lot of people, and it can produce anxiety. So these feelings do, however, tend to diminish and dissolve over time and with practice. So I know this video is going to open your awareness, and then you can start to practice being more intimate in your relationships. So let's talk about the benefits of being in an emotional, intimate relationship. So you're going to feel and experience a sense of feeling safe inside, and you're going to feel at peace within yourself and with your partner. And that's such a magical feeling when you feel safe and when you feel at peace. You're also going to feel safe to share your failures and your mistakes, because you're not going to fear rejection, especially self-rejection. And you're going to feel safe to share some of your most embarrassing moments. We all have them. And maybe some feelings of inadequacy, maybe your dark side or your limiting beliefs, your unconscious negative beliefs, whatever you want to call them. And also, sometimes it's really vulnerable and hard to share our big dreams in life and your visions and hopes for your future. And so all of this is possible when you have an intimate relationship. And you're also going to feel more likely to express appreciation and gratitude for each other when you have this level of intimacy. And what happens is this all adds up to feeling of emotional wellness and physical well-being, and just overall an incredible amount of personal wellness. When you have an intimate relationship with a man, it allows you to feel safe in your life. And when you feel safe, you can expand and blossom as a woman. So it's just the juiciest part of being in a relationship. Now, of course, there are going to be bumps along the road, and even the best relationships have challenges, and that's a part of the package. But seeing the bumps as inevitable make it a lot easier for you to not take things personally. So being prepared that they're going to be bumps and expecting that and not taking things so personally is going to make it easier for you to communicate in a non-defensive way with your partner. And believe me, communicating in a non-defensive way, it makes all the difference in the world. And that's exactly where I want you to get in your relationship, is when you're communicating from a place of curiosity and vulnerability. Now, before I go a little deeper, I want to invite you to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. This channel is dedicated to helping women deliberately date and create conscious, loving relationships. And if you've already subscribed, go ahead and like, share, and comment on the video in the box below so that we can have a dialogue. Now, let's talk about emotional intimacy. The more intimate you want your relationship to be, the more truth you must be willing to share. So you have to share your truth at all costs. And I know that can be so difficult for so many people. But the amount of truth and openness that you're willing to share with the man depends on how much emotional intimacy you want with that man. So the secret to creating intimacy is communication and vulnerability. Write that down. Communication and vulnerability. So let's start by talking a little bit more about what intimacy really is. Intimacy, you've probably heard this before. Into me, I see. It begins with you. It begins with me, right? It's your self-knowledge. It's my self-knowledge. It's my ability to be emotionally honest with myself first, because I need to understand myself first in order to have the capacity to understand my man. So the more you know about yourself, the more comfortable you'll feel and the safer you will be able to feel in the relationship. So more comfortable, more safety in the relationship when you know more about yourself. because the most intimate connection that you're ever going to have is the one with your inner self. So you need to nurture that, and you need to cultivate that relationship, because if you want a spiritually grounded life, you always have to be in a relationship with yourself first. You have to tell yourself the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the whole truth, because personal honesty can be difficult, because we all have various types of defensive ego defenses, right? And ego defenses are when you feel this urge to like defend yourself. You feel like you're under attack when your partner's sharing something. Do you feel this like this actual feeling in your body, this urge to interrupt, to speak up, to defend while your partner's talking, because it's hard to be vulnerable in that moment because you want to, defend yourself. And that usually comes from feeling or being under attack in the past, or not really knowing yourself enough to know that something's getting triggered. So when your partner's sharing something with you and he's being vulnerable, or maybe he's just sharing something with you, and I'll give you an example. And then you have a reaction, an internal like trigger goes off. There's an explosion that happens emotionally inside of you. And instead of noticing that something just got triggered, something that's about you, because if you're triggered, then it's about you. And what happens if you don't notice that that's about you, you will become defensive and attack or defend back. And then that shuts down your partner. He no longer is safe to share how he's feeling about a topic, because now you've taken the conversation over with the defensive posturing, and he's going to shut down in that process. That's why personal honesty is so critical in your ability and the necessity and the desire to be intimate with a man. You have to know those things that have challenged you in the past, your limiting beliefs, so that when they do get triggered, you can observe them, set them aside until you have the time to process what was triggered inside of you. And then only then do you want to talk to your partner about it, because you want him to continue sharing whatever he was sharing with you so that you can create more emotional intimacy, right? So let's go back through that. It's your job, if you want more intimacy in your relationship, to tell yourself the truth, then respond honestly to whatever happens next. And what can happen though in that process is that you can start to rationalize, and rationalize really reduce the amount of emotional intimacy within your relationship. And rationalize are just that, they're lies. They're lies that your minds create, that your mind creates in an attempt to protect you from perhaps the truth that you haven't been willing to see up until this point. But what happens is they'll eventually poison the relationship when you are constantly rationalizing your position or making excuses instead of being able to hear your partner. And that's all about goes back to being really intimate with yourself. That's the first step in being intimate with a man, is really getting clear on all those parts of you that you haven't made peace with. Now, what happens when you're having these conversations, these intimate conversations, you want your man to match your truth by telling you a little bit of truth about himself. And when you do that, and when he does that, you're going to get a lot closer. That's the benefit of these courageous conversations. You just get so much more intimate, and you'll get closer, and you continue to grow closer, which leads to more connection, which leads to a long-term commitment. And that's the objective, right? Is to get into healthy, committed relationship that lasts a lifetime. Now, if he withdraws, or if you withdraw during that conversation, and withdrawing can be just a form of defensiveness, you need to set an appointment. This is the tool I want to give you so that you can work through these intimacy challenges, and so you can create more intimate relationships. Is you're going to need to set an appointment to discuss this, and so that you can become more intimate. So if one person gets defensive, then you set an appointment, and then you discuss it even further. Now, if your partner isn't willing to set another appointment, or to set an appointment to communicate with you, you may need to really look at that, because for the level of intimacy that you share with this man, I mean, I'm thinking that you're in a relationship, you're already physical in that relationship, or maybe you're going to be physical and you've already shared quite a bit. You're sharing meals, you're participating in each other's life. So for the level of intimacy that you share in that relationship, it is required, expected that you don't withdraw, that you actually keep those appointments to communicate, and you actually share what you're feeling. And if you don't, those are called violations, emotional violations of distance. They're very damaging to relationship. Relationship cannot develop when somebody withdraws or acts it out. So there's another thing is, if you become defensive and you start to rationalize, make excuses, then you're acting out, and or maybe your partner then might act in. So whatever the behavior is, it's a coping mechanism that you acquired in order to cope at a time when you didn't have the tools and skills that you're learning now from me. So in order to become more intimate, you're going to have to set appointments. Withdrawing from each other is highly toxic for the relationship. And if your partner continues to emotionally withdraw from you, after setting appointments and trying to communicate, you may need to decide if you have to vote with your feet. So you grieve the loss of the relationship, of the emotional distance, and vote with your feet and leave the relationship, because relationship cannot survive if both one or both of the parties are emotionally distancing or reacting. You cannot continue to create intimacy, because it's not safe, right? Because you're afraid you're going to get attacked, or you're afraid to tell your truth because your partner will withdraw. So if you're already in those patterns, you can start setting appointments to have courageous conversations that you can create more intimacy. Now, remember that vulnerability is essential in establishing intimacy. And the safest way to be vulnerable is communicating your needs in a way that your partner can hear you. That's very, very important to this conversation. The way and when you communicate, it's critical, because it determines if your relationship is going to become more intimate, or if the relationship will start to unravel. So in closing, I just really want to encourage you to speak your truth, speak it with a feather, and set appointments. Don't just, unload on your partner the minute he walks in the door. Make sure you ask, his permission. Hey, I really want to talk about what happened last night. Can we talk about it, on Sunday? Can we set an appointment? And then remain really curious about his response to all of that. That's another big key in intimacy, is curiosity, remaining curious and not defensive, giving your partner the benefit of the doubt until you completely understand what they're trying to communicate to you. So I hope this was helpful. Now I have one last treat for you. It's my 2020 love forecast. Go ahead and go to 2020loveforecast.com and take my personality test, which is going to show you what's on the forecast for your love life in 2020. And I'm going to share who your celebrity soul sisters are. So go ahead and check out the link in the box and go to 2020loveforecast.com. Take your forecast and get your result on what your love life is going to look like this year and who your celebrity soul sisters are. Okay, ladies, I hope this was helpful. And just remember, I'm sending you so much love. Bye.